Hey there, podcast enthusiasts. Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your day? If you're loving the insightful conversations and captivating stories on Mirror Talk Podcast, here's a friendly nudge to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the empowering messages and thought provoking discussions we bring to your ears. But wait, there's more. We're all about spreading positivity and inspiration, and you can be a part of it too. How? By sharing the love with your friends and family. Share this episode with your loved ones, and let's create a ripple effect of empowerment and growth together. And hey, if you've been enjoying what you hear, why not take a moment to leave us a glowing 5-star review? Your feedback fuels our passion to keep delivering content that resonates with you. So hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the Mirror Talk magic far and wide. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, your support means the world to us.
Today's guest built the world's largest coaching business, becoming number one on Google for life coaching. It coaches rock star business owners to double revenue, achieve more in less time, and be more extraordinary entrepreneur, partner, parent, and leader. Welcome to the show, David. How are you doing?
Hey, Toby, I'm good. I feel even better now that I've met you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Mirror Talk Podcast. I really appreciate your presence here. And I enjoy the fact that, before we start recording, we are, able to chat a little bit and, just get to know each other. And I'm super excited about everything that you've done, and also much more grateful that you are here right now to even teach me about how to improve my life by focusing on less, and how to double my revenue, how to, overcome my challenges, and maybe how to use these challenges to change who I am and become a better person, basically. So
those sound like good topics.
Yeah.
How our challenges make us who we are today, and how we can maybe appreciate them, and then how more focus in our life can lead to more peace, happiness, and more money.
Yes, that's true. That's what we need, right? We need to live a much more fulfilled life and keep on growing. Yeah. So I would love to learn from your story. I would love to know how you overcame all of these challenges. Like, you are not a stranger to overcoming challenges. You survived a full collapse of your glider, and you had a fractured spine. You witnessed the death of your sister at age 7, and you also witnessed a lot of other challenges in life. Would you like to share about these experiences and how you were able to overcome them?
Yeah, and something that happened when we started speaking before we hit record is you gave me a new thought. You talked about challenges and overcoming them, but you said, I presume that they made you who you are today. And so I want to look at that with you and see how that may have happened. And my hope is that the listeners might hear it and go, oh, that thing that happened to me that I felt bad about or sad about or resentful about, it really has contributed to who I am today in a positive way. So that's my hope, and we'll see. So I've had a lot of challenges, and I think when we see someone who has some level of success, we can often assume that everything just went well for them. It's like, oh, this celebrity, they got all the breaks, and look at their life. They're acting in TV shows, or this guy's making millions of dollars, or this woman's doing that. We don't often see what they went through. And we think, oh, maybe they're just a different person, or they know something I don't. No, maybe they went through hell as well. They just don't share it. People don't tend to share it. So I'm happy to share some of the things that were hard. And while I've been very blessed in life, we're going to focus on what was hard. And so one thing is, when I was 7 years old, I saw my 5-year-old sister killed in by the school bus. Ooh. So I was there. I saw it happen, and we didn't know what to do with kids back then. Like, my parents didn't know what to do. It wasn't like you'd take them to therapy. It was just, you get on with your life. You don't take them to the funeral. And so I never got to go to the funeral. And apparently what happened is I didn't grieve properly. And I didn't know that until I was 23 or 24. And I just kept on breaking up with my first serious girlfriend. And I'd broken up with her 8 times. And I realized I can't go back with her unless I know what the hell is going on. So I went to a therapist and learned how to grieve. I learned and I started having conversations with my parents. Like, what was that like for you? What happened? We never talked about it because I was 7 when it happened. And then we just buried it away. So what's developed out of that is I seem to be prone to anxiety and depression. So sometimes my nervous system is super vigilant. It's hyper alert. So I'm a good person to have around if there's going to be an armed holdup in 10 minutes, because I might spot something.
Yes.
I'm a good person to have around if there's some kind of emergency or something needs to be worked out, because I'll be noticing what needs to happen. And I'll be like, hey, wait a minute, don't do that. That might create a fire. Or hang on, if you're going to ride your motorbike, maybe wear the inflatable vest because, you know, it's a very dangerous thing.
Yes.
So I guess that's the positive. Because I wasn't alert back at age 7, I think I've learned to be super alert because part of me wants to track if something bad's going to happen.
Yes.
Now, the downside is I deal with anxiety and depression, and I've tried 50 different modalities to work with that, and it's manageable. Like right now, I feel great.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really hard, and I might just feel like I can't face the day. I don't want to do anything. I'm about to move to Los Angeles, it seems, to continue a hobby of mine called acting. And sometimes I get scared about the move. And then I think, how am I going to handle it if I'm just exhausted and I've got fatigue, or if I go into a depressive episode, even low level? So that's what's hard. And then one value is this vigilance, that I spot things no one else is going to spot. And another thing that I think is good is I have a lot of empathy. Like for people who are going through anxiety, I can help them.
Yes.
Because I've been there.
Yes.
For people who are going through depression, I can help them. I know I've saved at least one life by just being there. And I remember when one of my dear friends was suicidal and had tried twice to kill himself, I was one of the few people in the world that he would listen to because I'd been there.
Yes. Yeah.
And he knew I got it. And so he could hear me when no one he couldn't hear it from anyone else. He's like, you don't know, but I do know.
Yes.
So that's one big challenge in my life. And it's been emerging over my whole life and realizing, oh, my nervous system is prone to anxiety and depression, and I need to learn how to manage it. And there are definitely, I just thought of another upside.
Yeah.
Another upside of the challenge is I've had to learn new modalities. So I've had to learn yoga. I've had to learn about good nutrition. I've had to learn about how important exercise is. I've had to.
Yes.
Because I couldn't cope without it. I've had to learn the Byron Katie work. And she says the worst thing that can happen to you is a thought. Now, if my life was great all the time, I wouldn't be spending time with Byron Katie.
That's true.
You know, I'd just be, I don't know, playing tennis and, hanging out with friends and acting.
Yeah.
But because things got so hard, I had to go looking. That might be when you find your next coach.
Yes.
Or your next therapist or your next teacher, because things are so hard. So those are a few examples. And I know you brought up the fractured spine.
Yeah.
I tend to, even though I'm hypervigilant and I'm always scanning for threats, I've been called counterphobic because I will lean into something. If I'm afraid of it,
yes,
I won't run from it. I will lean into it. That's my style. So I'm afraid of heights. so I went and got trained as a paraglider pilot and a hang glider pilot. And I would do all this. And then I've had a full collapse of my glider, and I plummeted towards the earth.
Ooh.
I was 300 feet up, plummeted towards the earth, and at 80 feet above the ocean, my paraglider reinflated.
Ooh.
And I survived.
That's great.
Yeah. And then I had I've had a few very close calls. I had another one where I was only 10 or 15 feet above the ground on this mountain, landing on top of a mountain, and I didn't control the wing properly, and I collapsed, and I fell 10 or 15 feet onto my butt.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so for the second time in my life, I fractured my spine, and I think it has contributed to who I am today. One way is that I tend to go for it in life. If you can run off a mountain in Nepal or step off a cliff with a piece of canvas attached to you, I think that's a metaphor for life. You can then do almost anything, like anything that seems scary. It's like, well, I've done that, so I can have this tough conversation, or I can speak on this stage, or I can do whatever because I've had practice at leaning into my fears. And the other upside of all that is I really know what can happen. I know what can happen to the body. I know how fragile we are. I survived a car accident when I was 17. I probably should be dead, and I'm not. So I've seen what can happen. And after that last accident, I decided to sell my wing. And it's really difficult because they fly right near my house, and they fly almost over my house.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, you're teasing me. But I sold my wing, and then I sold my motorcycle because I love that too. It's so good, but I know what can happen. And I know the statistics, and I know the probability, and I know it's not a matter of if I come off, but when.
Yes.
I will come off a motorbike if I keep riding a motorbike at some point. And if I keep flying, I will have another incident or an accident because the statistics are just there. And the question is, how bad is it going to be? And I've realized I want to keep my feet on the ground. And it's like a life choice that I have realized I want to live. I want to stay alive. I'd like another 30, 40 years if I can get them. But before, I was willing to die. I was like, this is so fun and this is so cool. I'm willing to take the chance. Now I'm like, you know what? Some risks are not worth it. And I think I've gotten pretty good at working out the risks that are worth it and the risks that aren't. Not wearing a seatbelt, not worth it.
Not worth it.
There's not a lot of upside to it. Smoking cigarettes, pretty clear that's not a good value proposition. Or taking crystal meth or heroin, not worth it. But telling your partner you want something different in the bedroom, that's a risk worth taking. Telling your boss that something doesn't work for you and you'd like to be treated better, that's a risk worth taking. We tend to take the stupid risks with no upside and not take the other risks that have a lot of upside because we're worried about what could happen. And I've learned through all the mistakes I've made and all the good choices how to do some better risk assessment, which brings me to the question that I told you I had for listeners earlier. This is a wonderful question, listeners, to work out if you are living your true life right now. If you were diagnosed today with a life-threatening illness and you were given 5 years to live, would you change anything about how you're living?
That's a great question. Yes.
I don't ask people if you were going to die tomorrow, what you would do. That's still useful. And 6 months, it's still useful. But if you knew you were going to die in 6 months, you might spend all of your money and burn all of your bridges or do reckless things. And then you got to deal with the consequences. In 6 months, if you're still alive. And I don't say 20 years because you might have 20 more years, but what if you don't? You really going to bank on that? You're going to bet everything you've got that you've got 20 years? Because you may not. There's a chance you may have 15, you may have 10, you may have 5, you may have 1.
Yes.
So I think 5 is a great number to capture your attention.
Mm.
And so I want everyone listening to do this. If I knew I was going to die within 5 years from now, what would I change? And I can make it easier for you. Is there anything you would change about your work?
Mm.
Is there anything you would change about where you're living?
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd change about your relationships? Would you speak differently? Would you be more truthful? Would you ask for more? Would you say no to more? Is there anything, would you put more time into finding a life partner or dating? Would you put more attention on your partner, your kids? So there's my question.
Yes.
You have 5 years. Would you change anything? Now, if the answer is no, if you go through everything and say no, if I knew 5 years was all I had, I would keep living this. Like for me, maybe I would keep acting. I would keep at my singing lessons. I've got a singing lesson later today, and I'd like to be a great singer. I'd keep taking walks with my dog. I'd probably still play this video game that I really love. I really enjoy it. I'd still spend some time doing it. I would probably make sure I got myself to Scandinavia and Brazil.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that I don't want to die without doing. And I think I would move to LA, which I'm planning to do in a couple of months, because I've always wanted to know what would happen if I really dove into acting. Oh, so I just got an insight, because I've been a little torn. Do I stay in Boulder, Colorado, or do I move to Los Angeles? Because I got a really good thing going here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm moving from something that's going great into an unknown.
Unknown, yeah.
And I just got my answer. If I knew I had 5 years, I would move to LA and see what happens.
Yeah, that's great.
I would roll the dice.
Then you move to LA. Yeah.
That's how I live. I take the risk and I find out.
Yes.
You know, if I go for 1 year and I'm like, okay, I might be done now, I'll come back to Boulder. That's great. But I think I just got clarity for a life decision for myself from my own question.
That's great, isn't it? Yes. And that's the essence of having this soulful conversation also, to have, questions and have discussions that will help us to reflect on our lives, basically, to see what we are doing, to know if we are doing the right thing, to know if we could, adjust some things, improve on some things to live even a much more better and fulfilling life also. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be speaking with you right now, because you have the world's largest coaching business, and you coach high performing business owners to double their revenue. And it's one of the things that I myself I ask myself, basically, like, if I were to die in the next 5 years, what do I want to have achieved? What would I love to change about myself also, like you said? And I would love to, double my revenue. I would love to live a much more fulfilled life. I would love to achieve more with the less time that I have. So would you help me answer this question of mine? Would you walk me through your 5 steps of doubling revenue in less time by focusing on less?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I want to correct one thing. I did have the world's largest coaching business. I don't anymore. But I was talking to Alex Mondosian, who's an amazing marketer in the US. And when he found out I had 150,000 people on my email list that were all interested in the coaching industry, he said, "You are the largest provider to the coaching industry in the world."
Wow.
Right now. And, that was like 10 or 15 years ago. So that's one claim to fame, but I don't now. People have way surpassed me, and I'm fine with that. But I just want to correct that so people don't think that I currently have that.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in focus. A lot of my clients, almost all of them are business owners. And I work with them because I'm a business owner myself, and I know what's involved, and I relate to the entrepreneurial spirit. And the chaos that is the entrepreneur and the business owner, because you got all the hats and you got all the responsibility and you got so many ideas. So I really relate to business owners. And I thought, what do they want? Well, the number one thing that most business owners want seems to be more revenue, more profit. They want to make more money.
Yeah.
So, okay, I figured we'll start there. I will help you double revenue. And 12 months is usually a good time frame. It's like, okay. And it's a great question to ask. And if you do have a business, or even if you have a job, you could ask this: what would it take for me to double my income over the next 12 months? What would it take? I've got a client who wants to increase his monthly revenue by 4 times a year from now. And he said, is that too much? And I said, I don't think it's too much at all, because we have to ask the question, what would it take? What needs to happen? How many sales do you need? What kind of increase is that? Where are those going to come from? What marketing strategies have been working? What else could we try? We're going to look at alliances, search engine optimization, like, we really dive into it, but we're doing it because he set that goal. So I start with people on more money, but I tell everybody, if all you want is more money, you should go and work with someone else. Don't hire me, because I love working on branding and strategy and hiring and leverage and all that stuff. I'm good at it. I used to be a consulting actuary to like Sony Music and Ford and Exxon. So that's fun for me, but there are plenty of people can help you with that. If that's all you want, go to someone else. But if you want to make more money in your business, you want to grow it, and you want more time off. So I got one client working up to 14-hour days. And he said, a year from now, I'd like to be working 10-hour days. I said, well, what would it be like if you only had to put 4 hours a day into this business, and the rest you could create something new, or you could go to Brazil, or you could spend more time with your kids, or what? He's like, is that possible? Yes, it's possible. Yes. So we start with more money, and then how much time do you actually want to be working, and how much time off do you want? And then it gets very interesting for me. With that time off, what are you going to do with that? What do you want to do in the world? Which comes back to that question. If I had 5 years to live, what would I change? That's where it gets very interesting. Now, I thought, how do I help people with this? Well, there are 20 different angles or 100 different angles you could come at it. One angle I come at is from the angle of focus. So I believe the human mind is like a monkey on crack.
Yes.
And, if we look at, say, the next 20 years, and I say to someone, what do you want over the next 20 years? It's kind of a tricky question, right? There maybe you got no options. You can't even think of anything. Or once you get into it, there are like 50 different options. And so initially I'm like, let's put them all on the table and then focus. If you were to pick a favorite, what would it be? Doesn't have to even be the right one, but let's just pick one. And we'll start working towards that. But that's too far out to really be meaningful. I often start simply with a year. A year from now, what would have you do the happy dance? So I invite everyone to do that. And if you want a structure for it to make it a little easier, come up with 3 business or work targets. If you got a job and you don't care much about your job, maybe you only have one target, which is to get a job you love. But then you might have another target that has a job that earns a certain level of revenue. But 3 business or work targets, and then 3 life targets. Things that would have you want to call 3 of your friends and say, hey, I'm so excited. I just had to call you and tell you that I achieved this goal. I wasn't sure I could do it, and I did. So that's one way to focus. But even a year is too far out. You do that and then you forget. How's that going to help you tomorrow? True. So what we do is we have an interim step, which is 12 weeks. We've done the 12-month targets, come up with a milestone. something you could achieve on the way to that 12 weeks from now that would have you go, yes, I'm fully on track. This feels like really good. I'll know that I'm on track to this goal if I reach this. So let's suppose your one of your goals was to double revenue, then maybe 12 weeks from now, you want a 20% increase. Because I imagine, it might take a little longer to start generating the early results, and then it could gather steam from there, speed up. So maybe it's 20%. That would have me feel like I'm fully on track. Okay, great. So we've got our milestones, but even that's too far out. So we need to come back and say, this week, next 7 days, out of all the possible things I could put my attention on, what am I going to choose to care about? And I recommend looking at those milestones. I go, okay, this is what I need to, now I've got 11 weeks left. What needs to happen this week? So I'm fully on track to that. Now you'll probably want to put 30 things on that list, because your mind is saying, well, you got to get it back to this person, and you got to fix the website, and I got to get some clients. So I got to make maybe 20 calls to see who might want to work with me. There's a lot that could go on, but you have to be the gatekeeper. This is where the focus comes in. Oh, I don't have it on my hat. That's funny. I usually have a hat that says focus on it, and I've been pointing to my hat today, and it doesn't even say it. It says freak knock, which is bizarre. So you have to be your own gatekeeper, and you have to pick. And some of my clients, well, how do I know what to pick? I don't think it really matters sometimes. Just out of everything you've got on your plate, what seems like it makes sense to do first? Okay. Put that on the list, and then you'll have number 2 and number 3 and number 4 and number 5. Now I usually pile too much on, and it can't all be done. So take the things lower down on the list and make them bonus items. If you happen to get all the other stuff done, these are bonus, but don't plan on doing too much, because then you just feel bad about yourself. Then the last question is, well, how is that weekly plan going to help me tomorrow? How do I know what to focus on tomorrow? Because it's still chaotic. It's still too much. Well, I love this one question that'll focus the mind. And you can ask yourself this question at 4 o'clock every afternoon, or at 10 o'clock before you go to bed. Doesn't matter, you choose, but I reckon you should set an alarm to remind yourself to ask yourself this question. If I was only allowed to do 2 things tomorrow, what would they be? 2 things that could make a big difference in my life or business. And I highly recommend that you look at your 7-day plan, right? Don't just pick something totally new. I mean, if your brain comes up with something totally different, okay, maybe you have to go and change the 7-day plan. Don't just add things on, because then you'll find some children get left behind. So what would be just 2 things if that was all I was allowed to do? And then the game I'm inviting you to play is, when you wake up, do those 2 things before you do anything else. Now you can get a drink of water, you can make your cup of coffee. If your morning ritual involves a walk or movement or a meditation, that's fine, do that. But before you check voicemail, before you look at Facebook, before you check your text messages and your 20 apps that give you messages, see if you can spend a couple of hours on those 2 things. I call these sprints. These are your times to do a sprint and focus time, all distractions turned off. No one is allowed to text you, or you can't see a text message or get a phone call. You even ask your family, hey, if you work from home, please give me space in the morning for these 2 hours. This is my time to focus. Now, Toby, even if you do everything I just said, you're probably going to fall off the horse.
Why?
That's okay. You'll be like, you'll get through your day and it'll be like 11 o'clock in the morning and you haven't even started
Yeah,
on the
that's
main thing. And you'd be like, my clients would be like, David, I fell off the horse. It didn't work. Okay. Well, what did you do instead of work? Well, I checked my messages. I checked my email. And then I got busy for 2 hours. Exactly. Your agenda just got hijacked by someone else's agenda. Give yourself that time to focus on what matters to you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's work. Maybe it's your singing exercises. I don't care. I care that you have that CEO time. This is why my hat says focus.ceo, because we are the CEO of our own lives. Have that time to work out, to do the planning, and to work out what matters. And then you can take the CEO hat off and you put your worker hat on and you chop wood, carry water. You just do the job that you've given yourself with no distractions. I'm telling you, this can literally change your life. If you do this, it puts you in the driver's seat versus what most of us are doing, which is just reacting to what's happening in life. Oh, I do this message. I respond to this email. This person needs something from me. My kid needs something from me. Blah, 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 blah. We're just on autopilot. That's fine for some of the day, but give yourself this CEO time so you are the driver. And if you have trouble with it, you're not alone. Most people do. I'm asking a lot of you right now. I'm asking you to do some long-range planning, some mid-range planning, some short-term planning, and then I'm asking you to stay on track for at least 2 hours every day. That's a big deal. And if you have trouble doing that, that's fine. Get help. Get someone to help you. This is what I do day in, day out. So yeah.
Yes. How do you help people, to focus on their plans and their goals? How do you help people to calm their human mind and stop them from acting up? As in, how do you help people, human minds, to stop acting like, monkey on crack, like you said?
Yeah. It's so common. I've been coaching for 20 years, but I'm still struck. This week, 2 hours ago, I did a coaching call with a very successful, very intelligent man. And we were told he's having some trouble sleeping. He's got a wonderful mind and it wants to be active all the time. And then yesterday, a client texted me and said, I'm in overwhelm. I know I shouldn't be, and I've tried breathing, deep breathing, and it's not working, and I'm just lost, and I'm miserable, and I'm overwhelmed, and I don't even know what's first. She's running a successful business. It's more common than you would think for the mind. I'll lay down to do a meditation, and the meditation is about focusing on the breath, and then just noticing when there's a story that comes into your mind, and it would take your attention from the breath. This is from Byron Katie. And it's amazing watching the mind. It just keeps delivering things to me. Even when I say, hey, you can rest now, it's okay. It'll say, you didn't get back to that person, that director who wanted to email you about the schedule for a short film I'm in. In fact, I'm writing down the note right now because I forgot to actually do that. And I'm like, wow, thank you. And then I went back to the breath, and the mind brings something else in. It was planning where I was going after that. And it was like, which route are you going to go to get there? It's just like constant. It's like TV that never stops.
Yes.
So one thing that we can do to start to focus the mind is the planning we just went through. Work out what matters over a year, 3 months, 7 days, and tomorrow. That's one way. Now, the mind is still, when you sit, and then the next thing is to block off time to just focus on one thing. And when we do that and we don't allow text messages, we're at least not stirring up the mind even more, because it's going to be stirred by every text message. It's going to be stirred by every email. It's going to open up a whole world of concepts and ideas and possible actions. let's not do that to ourselves. Let's not make it worse than it already is. And you know what I'm talking about, listeners. You'll be making your cup of coffee, and while that's brewing, you're letting the dog out to pee, and then you've got to get prepared for some work thing, but you just check your messages, just see, wait, did someone send me something? I don't have any time right now, but I just check. And now you've got these messages that you cannot respond to because you don't have time. So we're overloading the mind. So these things I'm talking about are a beginning to start to stabilize it. And then what I want for you, I want for everybody, is that you have some focused time. It's like a meditation. I'm going to spend 25 minutes now. Let's see what's on my list. I got to set aside time in my calendar for my book, to work on my book. So that's a thing there. So I could say, all right, for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to diarize time in my calendar.
Yeah.
I'm going to send money to the guy I owe money to. And I'm going to email these other two people that I wanted to reach out to. That'll be 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Now the game is, can I do that in that 25 minutes? And I set a timer. There's another way of focusing the mind. You've got 25 minutes. This is going to go off, and you either did it or you didn't.
Yeah. That's
Now,
true.
even when you do that, the mind is going to come in, and it'll be like, oh, but you didn't buy that thing on Amazon. You could go and do that now. or wait a minute, you need food. I forgot about food. I'm hungry. Well, hang on, we didn't plan that. So we'll do that when the timer goes off. So you need to almost parent yourself and say, that's not what we're doing right now. We're doing what's on this list right now. Now, sometimes the mind is so strong, it will not let you continue. It's like, no, this is important. Okay, have a sheet of paper next to you, and it could be your later list. And when something comes in that is so strong, your mind won't let go of it, write it down on the list and say, okay, we'll get back to that later.
Yes.
And that's a way, it's a way of doing a working meditation.
That's true.
Now, if you want to go even further and even deeper, I do recommend meditation. It's not easy for a lot of people. And I've got clients that do it, and they're like, I couldn't even focus on the breath for a second. The mind just brought me like 5 different stories a second. It's just like crazy. And I said, okay, that's fine. Just watch it. Pick one of the stories. Just pick one. Thank it for sharing its life with you. And then let it drift off. This is again from Byron Katie. Give it a picture. Give it a name, simple name like money, success, failure, winning, love. Like, just give it a name, give it a picture, and then watch that drift away and come back to the breath. And then you might only be there for a quarter of a second, and there's another thing, and you don't even notice it. You just forgot about the breath for 2 minutes, and then you're like, wow, okay. Dating. Here's a picture. Thank you. Come back to the breath. So I think that's a long-term strategy and a short-term one. It might actually help you slow down the thinking for the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever you're going to do. But I think as a practice, it's good to have our minds go in that direction. I still think I'm not very good at meditating, but yesterday I laid down for 20 minutes, didn't put on a guided meditation, didn't put on a hypnosis tape. I was just with myself and my body sensations. And at the end of it, I thought, oh, you didn't do that very well, David. But then I realized when I first started and I tried to sit for 5 minutes still with my eyes closed, it was horrendous. It seemed like an eternity. Now 5 minutes is a blink of an eye, and I can do that in an airport. I'll lay down and go into this trance lying on the floor with people lined up 3 feet from me to get on the plane. I've learned how to do it.
Wow.
So take faith. If it's something that's hard for you, you can start with a minute, then work up to 5, and then 15, and then maybe 25. I think they've done studies that show that 1 minute of meditation can make changes in your body. So that's a long answer to your question about how do we tame is a strong word. How do we focus the monkey mind?
Yes.
And how do we focus it in a direction that's going to have a difference in our life and our business?
Yes.
I think that's too many people are on autopilot. They come to me because they're like, I'm done with autopilot. Help me get in the driver's seat and work out where to go.
Yeah.
And then help me get there faster.
Yes.
And these things we talked about, you can literally achieve twice as much of what matters in half the time you're spending now.
Yeah.
And that's a 400% increase in productivity.
Yes, that's very true. About how long do you think it will take us to, change our habits to become much more focused, much more peaceful with our actions also?
When clients come to me and they want better productivity, because not everybody does. Sometimes it's other things. It might be relationship help or managing their team or whatever. But if what they want is better productivity, so these habits usually take a few weeks to put into place, because they'll get a few things right, and then this old habit will come in and it didn't work, or they don't feel they can not check email for 2 hours because there might be something urgent. Right. So we need to set up a system for that. Maybe they've got an assistant that checks their email and will text them if there's something really time sensitive. So that's an example. It can take, we got to try this, or wait, we got to tweak this. And so, they might see instant results, but to really get some good habits in and focus, I'd say it's probably a good couple of months to build some new habits in that. And we're often working on other things at the same time. We might be working on productivity. One client today, I was so thrilled. He's interested in cleaning up his past. Never, it's so rare. I've done so much of that work myself, but most people don't go, I want to clean up my past. I want to start having conversations with people that I resent. I was like, wow, this is very exciting. Yes. And so, we're often working on multiple things while we're working on productivity. It's rare that someone's like, just help me get more done in less time. And that's all I want.
There are always things we want to work on, basically, apart from just our career or just business. Well,
yeah. I mean, a lot of my clients are showing up recently with this monkey mind and wanting better sleep, wanting to slow down, wanting more meaning, wanting more fulfillment. Someone just asked me today, what's one of your favorite client successes? And I didn't think of this then, but it just came to me now. I've got one client, we've been working for almost 2 years now. She stands up for herself. She was like, not wanting to rock the boat a lot. And now she's found artful ways to say, with her ex-husband and with her son and with her daughter and with her current husband, and friends from school, she's able to actually say, hey, this is what's going on for me. And I'd like to head in this direction. What do you think? Can we talk about it? And I just love watching her agency and her leadership expand.
That's good.
I think I just went off on a tangent.
That's very great.
But it was a fun tangent.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for all the explanations that you gave, explaining from your own standpoint of view and from experiences with your clients also. And earlier you were talking about, making plans, like long-term plans, short-term plans, what you do tomorrow, what you do in the next 7 days. And that's why I would love to ask you, how can we choose the right goals and plans that best suit us? There are a lot of, like you said, there are a lot of things that we want to do, and you said this perfectly well. Like you could put some things on the to do later list, for example, or you could make some list of what you have to do in the next 25 minutes, for example. But some people are out there and asking themselves, okay, I have 1,000 things that I would love to do. How can I set the right goals and plan for right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll answer this, and I do have to go in a couple of minutes. And I'm having a lot of fun with you in this
Same
interview.
here.
Well, the world is your oyster. Now I'm going to mix my metaphors. You got a it's such a sandbox to play in, and so much is possible. And I think a lot of us stopped dreaming. We just get into a habit, and this is what I can expect, and this is what's happening. I think I just want to share something personal. Our dreams will sometimes hide from us. It's not until you're working with someone who puts questions to you that sometimes that you can go, oh, I've always wanted to do that. So I highly recommend you starting a list and writing at the top of the list, I've always wanted to blank. And then start writing down, like, I've always wanted to be a great singer. I've always wanted to be fluent in multiple languages. I've always wanted to draw and draw well. I've always wanted to be a competent coder in one language. Doesn't have to be all of them, but I want to be good at one, because then I can create anything that I want. So I'm loving this question right now, because it's pulling out things from me. Right now, I'm coaching myself.
That's good.
One thing, I've always wanted to go to LA and live the life of an actor. I don't even need to make it big. I don't have to be famous. It'd be nice. I don't have to be the lead in a major film. It'd be nice. I want that, but I just want to do it. I want to live the life. I want to see what it's like I want to date actresses. I want to find a life partner. I want to explore new things. I want the personal growth that comes from learning how to express an emotion, or to cry on cue, or to get really angry. Not act angry, but to get really angry. I want all of that exploration. And I finally started sharing that dream 8 months ago. I said to a couple of friends, look, quietly, I've always wondered what would happen. And I wonder if now's the time, because I'm single and I'm not tied to a job or a location, and I don't own a home here in the US. So now seems like a good time. And once I started speaking it, you got to be careful what you say.
Yes.
Because someone said, oh, let's talk about it. I did that. And then she called me a week later and said, you want to come to this, audition? I'm auditioning for this play, Dracula.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, okay.
It's happening.
I got cast as the lead. They cast me as Dracula and paid me.
Wow.
To do it. So start a list. I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to live in Brazil. Right? I've always wanted to speak on stage. Well, now I've done that. I've always wanted to be a great speaker. Now I've done that. I've always wanted to be a really great improviser. Sometimes I go and do some training on that. So start dreaming. You can also ask your partner. You can hire a coach. You can work with a therapist. Start dreaming. And then out of all the possibilities, maybe pick one. Maybe pick one and add that to your goals and say, all right, damn it. I heard David on this podcast. I'm sick of waiting. I'm finally going to go and take that class on pottery. Or I'm finally going to go and learn how to play ultimate frisbee. Or I'm finally going to do this with my kid. Or I'm going to, it's a really big question. What goals should I set, and how do I dream bigger? And my clients, before every coaching session, they fill in a form where I ask a very specific set of questions. And one of them is, if you were to dream bigger this week, what would you dream? So they're always being asked to generate.
So great. Thank you so much for this wonderful advice. I'm also going to make use of that and compile my own list too. But there are a lot of other questions I would love to ask you, but we are running out of time. So, but I would really love to know the best way to work and connect with you. Like I know you have, coaching services, you have speaking engagements, and other services that people out there, our listeners out there, are
Yeah,
really
thank
interested
you.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you'd like to be part of my world in some way, I send a couple of videos every week about topics like this. I have a podcast you can subscribe to called Extraordinary Focus.
Mm.
And you can go to if you're interested in coaching with me, because mainly the way I serve people is with private coaching. I also have a group program that's for people who are more of a budget. Go to myfocusgift.com. You can't even Google this. This is a hidden page on my website. Myfocusgift.com will take you to that hidden page on my website where you can get a free download on achieving twice as much in half the time. It's a very simple checklist about the stuff I talked about today and 7 things I didn't get to talk about today. You can also request to double your revenue audit, which is my way of just getting 15 minutes with you to see what you really want in your life and your business.
Yes.
And we'll see if coaching even makes sense for you and if I'm the right coach for you and you're the right client for me. And if not, I might have other suggestions for you. But I highly encourage you to go to myfocusgift.com, put in your email address, and then choose the options that appeal to you. And one of them, I got to change the name. I don't like the name, but double your revenue order is what I'm calling it, because most people want to double their revenue. But it's really about your life, and we'll see if coaching makes sense for you. And I'll give that link again, and then I gotta go.
Yes.
It's myfocusgift.com.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate this wonderful moment with you. Thank you for everything you taught me in this episode. It was so wonderful.
My pleasure. Thank you, Toby.